Hey, I'm Cortina from Finn.
I'm Sam.
I wanted to do a quick chat with Sam to talk about a few things that we learned over the course of running our operations business at Finn and why we think that live screen recording for operations teams is such an important tool. I think, as we kind of ran our business, one of the things that constantly frustrated agents was this feeling that if you're the agent on the ground talking to customers in the internal tools all day, working really hard to do the right thing, you kind of have all these frustrations in your day-to-day life, things that block you from doing your best work, and your manager and your manager's manager is mostly concerned with driving these very abstract numbers at a high level, like the KPIs for the quarter, and it feels like there's kind of this disconnect between the stats that the business or the team gets measured by and the day-to-day work that you're doing kind of on the ground. And so I don't know, I just thought it'd be interesting to think about, like, how do we bridge that gap and how video has done that for...
Yeah, I mean, I think put differently, like a similar thing differently, I always felt like when you look at operational environments, no matter how good the culture is, right? There's this tension where leaders are responsible for numbers, which might be the practical numbers that matter to the business, like what percentage of the time people are engaged in meaningful work, right? And of that time, how efficient are they getting things done, and like how many errors are being made, right? And so they have this one view of the world where they're kind of just trying to pick out trends. And then you have the agents that are doing the work who don't directly see those. I mean, they might have access to them, but their work is mostly about being in the real life examples. And there's tension on both sides because the managers are like, don't get the agent experience, and the agents don't necessarily fully understand, right, like how their actions flow through to the metrics and like how to bridge that gap. And so I feel like one of the things we did is we just continuously pushed further and further down. So the answer to these problems has to be more data, right? And so on one hand, that means more metrics, which get hard to manage, right? But on the other hand, it also just means, and that's kind of the manager view of the world coming down, is like instead of having aggregate metrics and averages, which are hard, not very meaningful, you think about distributions between people. And then instead of distributions, you start measuring distributions on workflows. And instead, you can kind of like work down the metrics to get more specific. And then from the agent experience, rather than being like, okay, your manager shadows every once in a while, you have a one-on-one, you discuss an issue every once in a while, you kind of have to stack up so that the managers can experience as much as possible the agent day-to-day, right? So
yeah, it sort of parallels this same tension you have in sort of consumer software development, where I think a lot of people have a tendency to be in sort of like one place on the spectrum. Like some people will just be in the sort of BI analytics tool all the time, just only looking at trend lines. Then you have a bunch of people who are kind of using the product all the time or talking to customers frequently and bringing the qualitative side. And really, like, no picture is complete on its own. You kind of have to be popping back and forth between like seeing what the customer or the sort of like agent on the ground is seeing, and then also seeing the kind of broader trends at a more abstract.
Yeah, and again, I guess the only answer you and I knew how to work on was just more data, right? Yeah. And more context. And I think I remember even when we started working on video, like there was a big group of people at the company who didn't think video was going to be valuable at all.
I was one of those people. I was like, yeah, I think it's cool that we could do video, but how is it actually going to be useful?
Right, and it turns out that it's massively valuable. Yeah. It just especially when you marry it to the data, where you all of a sudden you can say, look, I can't look at everything, but I can use data to know exactly what to look like, and then get the qualitative experience from there and go. And so it is interesting. I feel like that's, in some ways, it's as much, one way to think about the tools we've built and the way Finn Analytics works is it really is as much about helping teams and leaders like bridge the communication gap and the knowledge gap, right? To like work together better at solving problems as much as it is, anything else.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wishes their manager was like shadowing more, in the trenches more, and I think this tool kind of really helps bridge that gap and give people that sort of on the ground sense of what's going on.
Absolutely. Cool.